Amid a string of mediocre releases, large franchises being retooled into more action-oriented ROMs, and the trend to make games more accessible, AAA survival horror games seem to be on the ropes. Fans of the genre hold out for the triumphant return of limited ammo supplies, vulnerable protagonists, dark and moody atmosphere, as well as freakish creatures. Where there is a demand, someone will inevitably step up with a supply. Dream Painters has stepped forward with a modest entry into the horror game genre. It isn't a traditional survival horror title, but it does promise scares and chills. And it begins with your nameless, faceless, voiceless character in front of a sawmill explaining that he's drawn to its location. Your character is actually a teacher on leave of absence due to debilitating headaches. He finds some photos among his belongings that show him at the sawmill, despite the fact that he remembers none of this. Players can only obtain this information if they bother to read the faux notebook contained in the extras folder of the game folder. The narrative is sparse, almost non-existent really. While the esoteric nature of the story is intended to elicit curiosity, it never offers a solid foundation to pique your interest. Not even establishing who your character is or what is motivating him in the game itself ensures that you remain distant from the events in Anna. Anna plays as a first-person point-and-click adventure game. You meander around the game's environments, picking up and examining objects in an effort to solve some of the most obtuse and absurd puzzles in video game history. It should be noted that ridiculous puzzles are not exactly uncommon in the adventure game genre, but they usually include hints and cues to provide the necessary info to complete them. Anna, however, eschews such formalities, instead forcing the player to combine items randomly and blindly to guess what's necessary to solve the puzzle at hand. On top of this, even when the puzzles do make some sense, they're often undermined by pixel hunting. It makes sense you would use a lighter to ignite a stove. However, using the lighter on the kindling in the stove will not yield the expected results. Using the lighter on the stove itself, on the other hand, will. It compounds the frustration and makes playing Anna tantamount to an act of masochism. Anna also blunders by failing to offer a credible threat. What is a horror game without some sort of impending doom? There's no way to fail Anna. The horror in this game comes from witnessing supernatural events which are rarely effective. They range from laughable to mildly creepy. Anna doesn't do everything wrong when it comes to effects and atmosphere. Upon making progress and revisiting some areas in the game, you'll notice that they are changed around. This reduces the tedium in backtracking as well as offering the occasional unsettling imagery. Messages will also appear on the walls and slowly fade away. It is in these brief moments that Anna shines, but it isn't long before its luster tarnishes. When the core of the gameplay involves scrutinizing the environment for clues and objects, it's important that the game appeal visually. In terms of art direction, Anna is wholly lacking in cohesion. The exterior of the sawmill has an overexposed palette with neon green grass and a pristine blue stream. Bright whites make up the exterior of the mill, and it has an almost cartoonish feel. That aesthetic eventually gives way to a more traditional dark and foreboding design on the sawmill's interior. Occult-like symbols eventually litter the walls as the antagonist's mental state degrades. The lighting goes from red to purple. Particle effects are straight out of the PlayStation era, with fire being represented by glowing orange puffs, and steam consists of white puffs. Oddly enough, the fire effect found in the stove on the sawmill looks rather convincing, and one wonders why it wasn't used for the other fire effects in the game. Nothing is consistent, and the final area of Anna is perhaps the most offensively hideous and repetitive area I've explored in a game recently. On a technical level, the blurry textures and plain props do little to make up for the haphazard art direction. The inconsistency extends to the audio as well. The music comes courtesy of Chantry, and on its own it isn't unpleasant to listen to, but it rarely serves the mood of the game. If the incoherent art style doesn't leave you confused as to the game's tone, the music serves as a mood-killing coup de grace. Mostly composed of acoustic guitars, piano, and some vocals, the music never really creates any kind of tension or mystery. I'm not left with the impression that Chantry worked closely with the development team to flesh out Anna's vibe. I have a suspicion that those who will enjoy Anna's brief journey will come few and far between. Its puzzles will irritate even the most ardent adventure game fans. Its lack of tension and cheap haunted house paranormal events will elicit chuckles rather than chills from horror fans. And its lack of a cohesive story will surely dissuade anyone else from playing it. I suppose the free soundtrack might please Chantry fans. In any case, those desiring a horror title will do well to play Amnesia, or return to Resident Evil, or Silent Hill.